In the last video, you learned about creating a SQL database using Terraform just from the CLI or the command line interface. Now we're going to learn how to do that in Azure DevOps. So there are a few prerequisites here that we're going to need. First, I'm in the Azure portal and I'm going to go to storage accounts. Okay, and as you can see here, I have a Cloud Skills DevOps storage account. So you're going to need to create a storage account. Then I'm going to go into the storage account and I'm going to go to containers. And as you can see here, I have a container that's of public access level blob. So the reason why you need a storage account in a container is because the Terraform state gets stored inside of a storage account in Azure. This is like a safety feature almost. So the TF state isn't just floating around anywhere. It's actually stored somewhere secure. So once you have that and you create the storage account and the container, go ahead and resume the video. So I'm at Azure DevOps here, and I'm going to go to my project here called Cloud Skills. Okay, and then I'm going to go to Pipelines. Now from here, I'm going to create a new pipeline. I'm going to choose where my code is. So my Terraform configuration is in GitHub. And then from here, I'm going to choose where my code is for my Terraform configuration. It's in DevOps for databases. And then from here, we can either use show more and then use, a predetermined template, or we could just start with our own. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the starter one, and I'm just going to delete everything. Okay, so now at this point, we could start adding in some configurations. The first configuration we're going to add in is our trigger, and our trigger is going to be main. So what this means is anytime that code is pushed to the main branch or the main branch is updated, this pipeline is going to trigger. Next, we're going to specify our pool. So our pool is going to be what VM image is going to be used to deploy and run our CI/CD pipeline. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to use Ubuntu latest, and this VM image, well, really it's actually a container. This is going to run and fully be managed by Microsoft. You don't have to worry about that. Next, I'm going to start specifying my steps. So the first step that I'm going to do is I need to initialize my Terraform configuration. So what we could do from here is instead of, for example, typing all this out, we can use the show assistant. So in the tasks, I'm going to type in Terraform, and I'm going to use the second one right here to execute Terraform configurations. So the first command I'm going to use is a init, but then we're going to use, validate and then or plan and apply. Okay, so where I'm going to use a init here, my default configuration directory is actually might be different from yours, but just confirm it. So I'm going to use SQL server creation. And the reason why is, let me just go to GitHub really quick and show you the reason why. I'm going to go to my profile here. I'm going to go to my repositories. I'm going to go to my DevOps for databases. So my default directory is SQL Server creation because that's where my Terraform configuration files are. So if you fork this repository, cool, you can, continue to use it. And if you created your own, just make sure that wherever your Terraform configuration files are, that's what you're putting here for the configuration directory. I actually need to remove those. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to choose my Azure subscription. I'm going to choose what resource group I want everything to go into. So my SQL database. I'm going to choose my storage account. I'm going to choose my container. And then the key here, you could just name it terraform.tf state. That's perfectly fine. Okay, I'm going to click add here. So now at this point, we can see that our command and all of the configurations are now here. So we didn't have to type all of this in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing for plan and apply. All right, so I'm going to type in Terraform. I'm going to go to Terraform, and I'm going to change this to plan. Okay, the default directory is going to be the same thing. So SQL Server creation, right? And then we're going to pass in some command options. So these command options are going to be for our secret variables that we're passing. And remember from the last video, we had that secrets.tf vars. We don't have that anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass in these additional commands, and you're going to see these variables here. Don't worry about that just yet. Hang tight. So I'm going to go to service connections, and then I'm going to click add. Okay. As you can see, I'm using two variables here, the SQL password and the IP address. The way that you can set that up is simply go into your variables, create a new variable, and then give it a name. So for example, IP address, okay? I'm gonna make sure that the value is kept a secret, and then I'm gonna pass in the value. So for example, I'm gonna pass in my IP address. Notice how it's a secret, you can't actually see the value. I'm gonna click OK, and then I'm gonna add a new one. This is gonna be called SQL password. Again, I'm gonna keep this value secret. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna copy my SQL password. I'm gonna pass in the value, click OK, and then save. So now at this point, we can use those values right here in our plan. See how we have IP address and SQL password? And now we can actually do the same thing for our apply. So actually, literally, all we have to do is just copy this task here for the plan, paste it in, and then just change the command from plan to apply. It's literally the same. So now we're ready to run our configuration. So I'm going to click save and run. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to commit the pipeline to my main branch, save and run again. Okay, and as we can see, our pipeline is now running. I'm going to go to the job here. I'm going to view this and give it some permissions and click permit. Okay, so now the job is going to run. So this might take, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. So go ahead, pause the video and come back when you're done. And as we can see here, the deployment was successful. It took about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So if I head back over to the Azure portal here, I'm going to go to my resource groups, go to my Cloud Skills RG, and then we can now see the database DevOps 9292 has been successfully created.